Okay, this is 12.3b, and I finished up 12.3a by having this written down. At least I hope that's what I had written down. And then 5y plus 6 equals 0. Y plus 2 equals 0. I'm hoping you remember how to do this. I mean, this is old stuff. Divide by 5, divide by 5, and y equals -2. So those are my two y values. Okay? Now let's take that same equation and use Pythagorean. Or I'm sorry, quadratic formula. Remember quadratic formula? -b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Remember that, right? And we had the equation, what was it? When all was said and done, oh yes, 5y squared plus 16y plus 12 equals 0. So this is the a, this is the b, this is the c. So -16 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Alright, so let's go ahead and just do this one. So you could, just to show that you can do it either way, it doesn't really matter which way you do it. Okay, so -16 plus or minus the square root of 16 all over 10, which is -16 plus 4 over 10, and -16 minus 4 over 10, because that's a plus or minus, and the square root of 16 is 4. So this is going to give me, let's do it up here in red, -16 plus 4 is -12 over 10, which is -6/5, and this is going to be -20 over 10, which is going to be -2. And again, those are the same two answers we just did earlier in this video. So that's my y value, -6/5, and y equals 2. And what that's telling you, remember in the beginning when we did this, I said one of those equations is a circle and one is a straight line. So there's our circle and there's our straight line. And this answer here says I'm going to intersect this line in this circle at -6/5 and at -2. Okay, if you were to show this on a graph, that's what this answer does. It shows where those intersect. Alright, so let's go and look at example number 5. Okay, there we go. We know this one is a hyperbola because of the minus sign, and we know this one is a circle because it's x squared plus y squared equals 9. We take the square root of the 9 and we get a 3, so that tells me what the radius is. So I already know quite a bit about that, and what they're asking us to do is solve that system. Okay, since they both have x squareds and y squareds there, I can use elimination. Remember on the last one I couldn't use elimination because one equation had squares on it and the other equation didn't. So let's get rid of the y's because I can make this a 4 by multiplying this entire thing here by 4. So I have 16x squared minus 4, and I multiply everything by 4. Okay. Divide by 20. So x squared equals 5. And because x squared equals 5, I take the square root of both sides. Remember, when I take the square root of both sides, that becomes a plus or minus. So x equals plus or minus square root of 5. Now we need to find out what y equals. So I'm going to take either one of these equations. I'm going to pick the easiest one, so I'm going to pick this one here and plug the square root of 5 in. In fact, I've got to do it twice. I've got to plug the positive square root of 5 in and then the negative square root of 5. So square root of 5, okay, I'm putting it in for this one, so I've got to square it. So square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is 5. So y squared equals 4, so y equals plus or minus 2. Okay? So when x is 5, y is square root of 5, y is plus or minus 2. Now what happens when y is negative square root of 5? So here we did the positive square root of 5. Now we have to do the negative. Negative square root of 5 squared plus y squared equals 9. So again, I'm plugging it into that one. It's going to give me 5 plus y squared. It's going to give me the exact same thing, because when I squared both sides, it did that. So y equals plus or minus 2. Okay, so this is what I'm going to end up with, since I've got 4 answers. When x is square root of 5, y is 2. When x is square root of 5, it can also be negative 2. See? When x is negative square root of 5, when I plugged it in here, it gave me 2. When x is negative square root of 5, it gave me negative 2. So it gave me those 4 answers. Okay, so when I graph this, if I we're not supposed to graph this, but if I did, I'd get a circle, and I would get a hyperbola that looked like this. So here is my square root of 2, my square root of 5, negative 2, my negative square root of 5, 2, my negative square root of 5, negative 2. Okay, so there's my 4 points where they intersect. And that's what these are right there. Alright, example number 6. Again, we're just solving the system. Notice I kind of keep my y's above each other. Okay. Let's see. We're going to use substitution to solve this one, since we already know y equals that. So wherever we see a y in this equation, on the top, come on, we're going to put an x squared minus 3. Since that's what y equals. So let's go ahead and do distributive. Let's combine these here. Now remember, we got this negative here. If we want to change that to a positive, we can. We just have to change the sign of everything else in the whole wide world. Alright, so let's go ahead and add 6 to both sides, because we're solving for x. And then remember, we take the square root of both sides, and we get x equals plus or minus 2. Okay? So now we take this answer, the plus 2, and we put it in one of the original ones. Let's take the simplest one, that one there, and let's put a plus 2 in here for x. And y equals 1. So when x is 2, y is 1. Let's take the negative part here. So when x is negative 2, y is 1. And those are my 2 answers there for example 6. Alright, well let's call that good for 12.3. We're not going to worry about doing number 7 and number 8. We're not going to get into anything that complicated. And that's it for the chapter 12. You only have one more chapter left and you're done.